Hi everyone, this is Ellie. Thanks so much for joining me for my 2021 mid-year update on my planner and journal lineup. When I was getting ready to film this video, I realized I hadn't actually made an official 2021 lineup video. I had kind of slowly put out videos as I did my setups, but this will be a chance to see most of them in one place and for me to chat about what's been working and what hasn't been working for me. You'll probably recognize this guy here. This is my bullet journal and also the heart, soul, and brains of my planner and journal lineup. I use the bullet journal as a planner, but it is also a memory keeper. So I have pretty much everything in here. Big tasks and events, the small daily tasks. I write down memories, things I did that day, things that happened, and all of my other systems can be kind of extrapolated out of here. I guess by that I mean my other systems are longer form versions or more detailed versions of the core that I write in here. I did start the year in a bullet journal, albeit a much smaller one. This is my pocket size. Have you guys missed it? Because when I was flipping through, I realized how much I've missed this size. It was the same function, just in a bit of a different layout and obviously a significantly different size. I love the pocket still. This has a piece of my planner heart and will probably always be one of my very favorite sizes, but A5 is working so well for me right now. I have been using this as consistently as I've ever used any planner. I'm in it almost every day. I have had, days or a few days at a time where I haven't been in it for whatever reason. It could have been a mood thing. It could have been busy. And I'm okay with that. You guys know how I am about blank pages. They happen. I expect them. Otherwise, I just won't start any notebook ever. And I am definitely going to continue with a bullet journal going forward into the second half of 2021. Here we have my cousin Avec, and this was my first year or my first half year in a Hobonichi cousin. I really wanted to try it primarily for the weekly layouts, which funnily enough are the part of the notebook that I am the least consistent with. That being said, I have really enjoyed having this notebook and the opportunity to journal, to do prompts, to write quotes, to make my tip-ins for our stationery stockpile challenge, the collab that I do with Dakshina. And looking back at these pages, I'm just really happy at what I do have. The blank pages honestly don't even bother me. Oops, there's my blotting paper. So for the second half of 2021, I am going to be using the Avec in the exact same way. I did film a setup video. I am going to try to be a little more consistent in these weekly pages, especially because I have a whole bunch of sticker kits that I would love to actually use. And other than that, I expect it will look largely the same. So a memory a day on the monthlies, an overview on the weeklies, and the dailies. I will probably continue with my affirmation and my gratitude section, and the rest of the space will be memory keeping or journal prompts, and I will see how it evolves. And this B6 Zequenz is what I'm using for my morning pages right now. This is probably a good time for me to pause and chat a bit about routines. In my stationery stockpile challenge video for June, someone had asked me how I manage multiple different journals and planners simultaneously. And the answer to that is, first of all, I'm very inconsistent. And secondly, routines are really important for me. I find that it's really helpful for me to have a general time of day or an ideal time of day where I would like to work in certain setups. Otherwise, if I don't have that little bit of structure, I get totally overwhelmed and I often don't reach for anything at all. I haven't shared this before, but I just made a really simple AM and PM journaling routine card. And I did them actually on these Post-it flags because I know myself and I know that I will move and rearrange things. So for example, the green used to be in the evening, and that's something that I switched to the morning. So just having this general sense of when I would like to work on something helps. Do I follow it? No, not all of the time. Again, this is kind of an ideal situation, but just having this kind of space, even just mentally built in for myself, does help me get to a lot more of these setups than I would otherwise get to. If you're interested in how I structure some of these routines, I can always do a video that talks about it a little more specifically, so you can just feel free to let me know, but it's fairly straightforward. I like to include all of the setups I have right now. This actually needs to be updated. And then I give myself some specific kind of prompts to help me move along. One of the things that I've learned about myself is how closely my routines are tied into my mental health. So if anxiety is high or my mood is low, I often fall out of my routines, and that's okay, that's expected. And to be honest, it's also a good kind of warning sign for me to let me know that something is up and I can take a step back and kind of evaluate and figure out how I can best help myself. But I know looking back when there's large empty spaces in some of these systems that it was probably a reflection of my mood or what was going on in my life at the time. And, you know, it is what it is. I'm okay with that. Having the routines already established makes it much easier for me to get back into them. And sometimes it's just, you know, one piece at a time, one system at a time. That's why I love the bullet journal at my core, because if I don't or can't get to anything else, I have that and that's enough. If you saw my flip through of, it would have been the month of May, after we lost our dog Desi, I had days where I hadn't even been in my bullet journal, but what I had done was just kind of scribbled some notes on some Post-its and I stuck those right in for 3 days. So it's just having that system there gave me a place to put those notes. And, you know, building habits is a process, but having routines definitely helps me do that. All of that is to preface these morning pages. So ideally, I like to do these in the morning. I aim to write 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing. I do like to burn or safely dispose of these journals once they're done as just a sense of release. And I was pretty consistent from January through March. After that, it kind of was sporadic and I haven't written in here for at least a month. This is something that I definitely want to get back into. I just use whatever pens I have around, sometimes my fountain pens, sometimes my gel pens. You know, it doesn't matter if there's bleed through or anything because this is just a way to get my thoughts out. So I know going forward that I'm going to do my best to reincorporate this. For me, that means I'll probably start small. Maybe I'll aim for a page or even a paragraph a day to start. And I might also give myself a couple different times of day to look into this. Like maybe I'll do it in the morning, you know, around lunch or in the evening. And that flexibility will just help me get started again. It's usually the getting started for me that's the hardest part. Once I've gotten into it, it always is helpful and pretty cathartic. Here we have the Hobonichi A6 5-year diary. This is something that I have always wanted to try, and this is my first year in it. You're going to hear a pattern. I was consistent from January through March, inconsistent through April, and May and June, I'm not sure I wrote much at all. I'm the most disappointed about this because I know that I will love in future years to go back and see what I was up to on that same day in years past. But I still have this whole journal and I am just going to pick up my pen and start again. I don't have any intention of going back and back planning. I will probably do a couple of big things like when we lost Desi and maybe any kind of bigger birthday celebrations or things that are really standing out to me. But other than that, I'm just going to accept those blank spots as the cost of life, of how I journal, of what's going on, and start from where I am. So I am going to really, really try to be intentional about this. I think for this particular journal, I need to really play around with when I want to write in it and build that habit really, really consistently. I think this will probably be the strictest I am with myself until it becomes a habit, because I do want to have these filled going forward. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to force myself to do it. I don't want this to be a chore. It's not a chore. I just let it go for too long, and then it was hard for me to get started again because part of me was like, oh, maybe I will back plan, and then that was totally overwhelming. But giving myself permission to start where I am always helps me, and just, let go of the rest. So I'm really looking forward to getting back into this for the second half of 2021. And at the end of the year, if it turns out I barely used it, I will sit down and reevaluate. Now, this is a setup I haven't shared before. So this is a Gillio Pocket XL, and it's the beautiful blue. I can't remember, is it called dark blue or royal blue? Either way, it's gorgeous. I asked for a piece with a lot of pebbling and character, and they delivered. I have some stickers from StudioKatie here. Originally, I set this up for my trackers. This was hugely inspired by Lindsay's scribbles. And I also made a section for my budget. So I just went ahead and made these dividers. They can't even see this one, but they are not even, but they do the job. And at the beginning of the year, I was tracking my movement, meditation, planner spending, my cycle. I had some tasks, and I ended up moving most of these to my bullet journal. So I have not been in here since May, and that's okay. I mean, I liked the idea of it, but it turned out that pulling out an extra notebook or binder every day for tracking just wasn't something that was realistic for me. What is working really, really well in here is keeping my finances, because I'm not in this every day. I showed this on Instagram, but I do a little spending post-it so that I can keep it right in my bullet journal pages and just move it from day to day. Because again, pulling out a separate system wasn't working for me, and even flipping to a different spread can be iffy. So having it front and center really, really helps. And then I have, sinking funds, budget overview, and those are things that I update just a couple of times a month. So that's what this has been for, and that's been working really, really well for me. So I'm going to continue with that going forward. I like to use the Pilot Frixion because I tend to make mistakes and it helps to be able to erase it. I do have this slim body one so that it fits really nicely in there. So yes, this did change. Well, I just stopped using part of it, I guess, since January, but the budgeting I'm going to keep on exactly as I've been doing because it's been working for me. And finally, we have my Hobonichi Weeks. I did film a setup on this. I set this up as a reading and podcast tracker, and I have not been keeping up with this at all. This one I'm disappointed about too. This came up mostly because I was trying to figure out a good way to use this because I love the weeks. I still plan to try bullet journaling in a weeks at some point, but not this year. Obviously, I'm happy with my setup at the moment. Anyways, I used this for a few months. Everything kind of fell off around the same time, late March, early April. but I was keeping track of the titles of books that I've read, any notes just to jog my memory. And then in these pages here, I was jotting down any podcasts that I listened to and notes. I do hope to continue with this. I'm still listening to podcasts, but what usually happens is that I'm doing something else while I'm listening. I'll be, prepping a meal, or if I take a bath, I'll listen to a podcast sometimes, or I'll be coloring. So I don't always have this with me to jot even the smallest of notes. So we will see. I would like to keep using it this way, but it might not be realistic. I mean, the fact that I haven't pulled it out, even though I've listened to some really good podcasts lately, tells me that this might not be the right fit. It also, again, might just be about building the habit. So we'll see. I'm not going to focus too strongly on building this habit though. What I might do is see if I can incorporate any of these notes into my bullet journal, just so that I get used to writing them down again. And yeah, I'm just going to play around and see. The Weeks is such a versatile system that this is really fun to try, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And this is where I am mid-year 2021. Filming this video was actually a really great thing for me because it let me sit down and think about all of these setups and make sure I'm still using them intentionally the way that I want to. And as it turns out, I'm really happy with all of these. Even though I haven't been in this one enough and the weeks might not work out the way I wanted it to, they were all set up with intention, and they all do speak to different parts of my life or different habits and routines that I'm trying to build and cultivate. So I'm looking forward to the second half of 2021 and whatever that brings. I would love to know if you have any planner or journal changes moving into the second half of 2021. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.